Hi, hello, welcome. Thank you, Alan, for joining me. This is Lyra from Self-Reflection Podcast. Our guest today is Alan, and Alan, can you reintroduce yourself for us, please? So,
Um, okay. My name is Alan Reese. I'm the CEO of the Frederick D. Reese Foundation. I'm the grandson of civil rights icon, F.D. Reese, which stands for Frederick Douglass Reese.
and sorry, I know when I was reading up on the bio you sent me, and I looked on your page, I realized that your grandfather Frederick Reese was a big icon in your life. How has he shaped your life?
My grandfather has shaped my life um, to always stand for what is right, always do what is right. You can't um, you doing the right thing. You can't never go wrong by doing the right thing. Um, and also he shaped my life to be to be a gatekeeper and be more of a spokesman to share our unsung history in the black community because he's an unsung hero that most people don't know, but it is my job and he put me in charge of making sure his legacy gets out there.
Yes.
Uh,
So for anyone that's listening, can you tell us a little bit about your grandfather?
well, my grandfather is the man. He was the leader of the Selma movement. He is the man that invited Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to Selma to assist in the voting rights movement. Um, that's in a nutshell. But through the show, I guess we can put more emphasis on what actually happened. But he's the person that got Dr. King, and also he got John Lewis Smith. He's the person that led that to officially invite Smith to Selma too. hmm
Yeah, and I was also reading on your page and some history. He was also the president of the Teachers Union.
Yes, he was the president of the Selma Teachers Association, and so through that, because he was the leader of that, he was the leader of the first World All Teachers March. But he being the leader of that was separate from the leadership he held to have the authority to invite Dr. King to Selma.
Hmm. And, can you that's I think that's amazing that I'm just like, at least I feel like I am in a position that I never thought I would be in, just to hear about him and like learn a little bit about him and his work that he did for the African American community, for the Black people.
That's right.
Definitely tremendous, and we're grateful for him and his heart, um his want to better our community. So we're grateful for that. Um,
That's right.
can you tell us a little bit about the foundation, the Frederick Foundation, please?
Well, the Frederick D. Reese Foundation is a young foundation. We created it. We started in 2017, about 6 months before my grandfather passed. And one thing about the foundation, we said with Granddad, we really want to continue to, kind of walk in your spirit. He was an educator, he was a pastor, he was a politician. So the foundation kind of put emphasis on education. We do back to school drives. We we have scholarships. We have HBCU scholarships we give out. Um, and we can do it through as people continue to donate through the foundation. And
Mhm.
some of the things we do by getting grants because we are 501c3 certified. So different grants that we can also get to kind of put back into the community, kind of walk in the spirit of FD Reese.
Absolutely. Where is the foundation located at?
The foundation is located in Atlanta, and we go between Atlanta and Selma, Alabama.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you guys. I think you guys are doing justice to Dr. Reese. You guys are just keeping his legacy alive is something that I think it's necessary, especially for the African American community. Because we come from a place where our ancestors, worked hard to get us where we are today. And
That's
for
right.
us to continue to acknowledge that and keeping their name alive. I believe that is something that is necessary, not only for us, but for our children's children's.
That's
So,
right. Exactly.
yeah, we're gonna switch on a different note right now. The one thing that really drawn me to you was I saw this video of you, educating young children, both boys and girls in the classroom, and I was like, I loved everything you were saying in that video. You were talking about changing mindset, cultivating positive thinking, just empowering young youths to know that themselves are individual humans that have power. So when I saw that video, I was really drawn to you and your work. And there was a quote that you wrote on it. I'm just going to read it. Better to raise children than try changing broken men. Let me read that again. um, better to raise children than try changing broken men. What did you
That's
mean
right.
by that?
If you understand Frederick Douglass, he said that it's better to raise children than change broken men. Sometimes it's hard to have conversations and spend a lot of time trying to change a person, a grown person, because a lot of times as we grow, we get set in our ways, and sometimes that's the downfall. We forget about the we shouldn't be children, but we forget about how to being as children. And so Frederick Douglass understood, even coming out of slavery, that it was hard trying to get people to understand. Look, you can be free. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But it was easier to tell the children and to teach the children as they were growing, because they are sponges. Their mind are sponges as they was growing, to implement things that they can already understand than trying to get a grown person to change. Yeah. So that's why I said that. And I think it's very important for us to spend more time with young people, because young people will shape the future. So if we spend more time with young people, are implementing things in them before they are broken, then we'll have a better community, a better neighborhood, which expands to a community, and which expands into a nation. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I go back and forth when you talk about this. I think of it as, you know, as adults, we are reacting, and as children, we are proactive. If we,
Right.
if we can change how we raise our children by being proactive, by installing all this energy into them, by installing positive thinking, by
That's,
telling them that they have the power to change their upbringing as they grow up. I think, like you said, we are going to have a better community. And when it comes down to like our emotions, our children will have better understanding of their own emotions as they grow up. And
yeah,
when they're young adults, or even older adults, they're better. We handle situations a little bit different when we're able to understand where we're coming from.
that's right. Yeah, my grandfather used to say, don't react, respond. When you react in an emotional state, and a lot of times that's gonna send you down the wrong road. But when you respond, you can think logically. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
You can think logically and make the right moves, move right. You know what I'm saying? So he's always say that respond, be in control. Don't react. So yeah, you're right. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times today we do, and a lot of times when I talk to different activists, I tell them we have my generation has we have to get out of this, but we have a reaction mentality, because you look at George Floyd and what happened to these different people. We start marching after things happen, but when nothing is happening, we're not making any moves. So we always reactive. We got to be, like you said, we got to be proactive and not reactive. We always react in an emotional state, and that has to change. We got to start doing things like today. Ain't nothing going on, but what if we was marching, or we did something to bring awareness to police brutality right now when nothing is going on? Now
Mhm.
that shows that we are responding in a mature way. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think it's all about being proactive when it comes down to just raising ourselves and raising our children, in the first
Mhm.
place. So, do you have any siblings, brothers, children yourself?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm married. I've been married for 13, will be 13 years in October. And my wife been together since for 15 years. Matter of fact, she was a high school crush I had on her. My brother and I pretty much is spearheading this. I have two brothers. I'm the middle child. My older brother Marvin Reese and my younger brother Frederick. But me and my older brother, we're pretty much spearheading this movement to put my grandfather's name in his rightful place. You know, because see, I'm that child. I was in, and I can give you the backstory on how this all began. What it was, I was in the fifth grade, and this is gonna surprise you when you saw me speaking to those kids. It's the same school I went to.
Oh,
When I was in the fifth grade, when I opened the social studies book and we was studying civil rights, and I saw my grandfather's picture without a name, and I told my class, I said, "That's my grandfather." And they didn't believe. They ridiculed me. They fussed at me. They said, "That is not your grandfather." Next to Martin Luther King Jr. I said, "Yes, it is." So of course, as a young man, I went home. I was very discouraged. But I told my dad is my grandfather's son. And so I told my mom and my dad, and they said, "Well, call your granddaddy," because I always had a great relationship with him. I called him up in Selma, Alabama. I said, "Granddaddy, this is what happened today. I want you to come to Atlanta because these folks don't believe that you're my grandfather in this picture." So I wanted him to come the next day, but of course he couldn't. So I told him, he said, "Well, give your teacher my number." And I did. And it's the same number today that Dr. King used to call the house, same home. And he said that we'll work it out. So they worked it out. He came, they put all the fifth graders in one room. And he walked in the room, man, and the class went crazy
oh,
because his face was still sinking. And they was like, "Wow, that is your grandfather." And the crazy thing is I still see some of my classmates today and they remember that story. They remember that. They was like, "Man, we did not believe that was your granddad." And it was so, but that put a spark in me to say, you know what? It's more people, it's more blacks that did this, that's unsung, that played a phenomenal role in the movement that has not been recognized. And we as black people have to do a better job in preserving our history. You know, white folks know how their history is. You know, they know who was the first president, they know who discovered this, who did this, but when it comes to us, sometimes it's cloudy because we're not good gatekeepers of our history. So I said, you know what? Because I'm a big fan of Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, all the massacres. I'm a study of Black history. And I believe it's American history, but the Black side of it. But, you know, and just so happened, my grandfather, man, played a big role in this movement, especially the voting rights movement, civil rights movement.
absolutely, man. That is a beautiful story. This is why I love doing podcasts and I love interviewing people. I would have never got that story anywhere else but from you, you
That's
know?
right.
So thank you for sharing that moment with us. Thank you so much. I think you brought up something really significant that a lot of, African American or Black people contributed to the history of this country, but they're not being recognized and they're not being acknowledged at all. How do you think that is? How do you think that affects the Black community?
It does. Because think about it. Okay, I can always think about my grandfather. He was fatherless. My grandfather did not know his father. Now think about he grew up with two sisters and a mother, and his mother, he was the youngest. Think about how many young black men and young boys grow in a fatherless home. Now think about, see, sometimes we look at our history and we can't see ourselves in our ancestors. What I mean by that, when you look at Martin Luther King, you look at the American family, mother, father, the home, the structure was there. But you not many times you don't see the dysfunction. Where can I be successful if I come from dysfunction? Well, I look at F.B. Reese. He didn't know his father. He grew up in dysfunction, but look, he broke a generation curse. He was a father in his kids' life. My dad was a father to me. Now I have kids. I'm a father because now I can. People should be able to see themselves and their ancestors and say, look, you know what? I can change because I come from dysfunction. That don't mean I got to continue this dysfunction. I can create structure. You get what I'm saying? The structure can start with me. So if we start putting our black leaders, our African American leaders, black leaders, however we want to say it, and put them up in our community and teach our kids about them, they can see themselves in them and they can change their circumstance. And those are some of the talking points that I use when I talk to young children. I make sure, and I don't stay on Dr. King, the movement so much. I use FD Reese's dysfunction to help kids who come from dysfunction to create structure so they can break generational curses. So I think that's very important.
Absolutely. I think, the word, um, you said, I think generational,
Curses,
sorry,
generational curses.
generational curses. I think that is absolutely something that we, as a Black community, I see that more. Let me say, I'm from Africa. And I have a different view when I look at the American culture, and when I look at, this society from a Black person that comes from ancestors from slaves, or, that grew in the United States. I have a different perspective. So when I do, like you said, breaking generational curses, I do see that in a way where Black people in America, do have a lot more separation of their families. Like they have mom but not dad, or dad but not mom.
Right.
And a lot of times that generational cycle continues because no one really acknowledges that this is something that it's not, it is part of who we are, but it doesn't have to be part of our everyday life.
That's right.
How I know you mentioned Dr. King. How did he influence your life as well?
Dr. King influenced my life because the same way my grandfather, Dr. King, they didn't mind leading from the front. And I'm a reverend myself. I'm a minister myself, and I look at the movement. The movement, those ministers led from the front. They didn't lead from the back. And they were my age. My grandfather was like 36. I'm 30. I'm 36 right now. And they were young, and they weren't afraid to stand for what is right. And they weren't bought. You couldn't buy them. They weren't activist celebrities. They weren't trying to be in everybody's faces. They were about the cause, about moving their people forward in the way they felt like they should do it. And a lot of times, like I put out on my Facebook and on my Instagram, I'm not a part of the conversation of agreeing with Dr. King and disagreeing with Malcolm X. I'm the type of person who all those men, I think we could take something from all those men. Malcolm X, Dr. King, F.D. Reese, Booker T. Washington, the boys. We could take things from everyone and implement it and use everything. You get what I'm saying? I don't have to agree with Dr. King and disagree with Malcolm X. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times we as black people and African Americans, we tend to allow ourselves to be on different sides and argue about things that does not matter, you know. And so that's how Dr. King kind of shaped me and my grandfather. Look, work on what works. Whatever you agree, my granddad used to always say that when him and Dr. King and Abernathy and all the leaders used to be in the room, and he said used to be conflict. And he used to always say, what they did agree on, what they agreed on, that's what they worked towards. If we agreed on 80% of this, that's what we worked towards, and we stood unified on that because when we went in front of the people, we had to be unified and show them, look, we're together. So my female and my grandfather taught me that, look, you don't have to agree on everything, but when you're a leader and you get in front of folks, you better agree on something and stand with each other on. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think you bring up a good point too. It's like, in my opinion, they all had the same goal.
There you go.
Like the goal was the same, even though they had different approach to how they, wanted to tackle that goal, but they all had the same goal. in mind, and that goal was to, free us, free our people, allow our voice
Right.
be heard. So how, if you were to, right now, what do you think Martin Luther King and Dr. Reese, your grandfather, how do you think they would see the Black community at this moment? What do you think they would say to us?
Um,
Because
I, I think they will say that we have a privileged mindset. We have a arrived mindset. I think they would say that we have a lazy approach to things. I think they would say that we have forgotten, um, we have forgotten the objective. Um, and I think they would be very disappointed in our community. What I mean by that is that on my podcast, I did a episode called Porches to Patios. It was done by design. We don't even know our neighbors today. Back in the day, I said, think about when we had porches. We could sit outside. We saw who was getting on the bus. We saw who was coming through the neighborhoods. Now we in the back on the patio, and we don't even know who stay across from us, the left to us or the right. They'll be very disappointed that we don't have a sense of community anymore, of togetherness. We lost that. We were so concentrated on getting rights here and there, but we forgot how it was to love on each other in our own community. And I think that would be I think they would be very disappointed in that. And my granddad was very disappointed in that because my grandfather passed in 2018. So, we had great conversations. Me and my granddad used to go back and forth, you know, uh, about different things.
yeah.
And these are some of the things I used to share with him, you
hmm
know.
Yeah, man, I wish I met him. He sounds like a man I would have loved to talk to. I would have just loved to spend 20 hours just listening to that man
Yeah.
talk. So
Mm.
I am happy and grateful that you got to meet him and you got to talk to him, because I think what you're on, your mission, what you're on to, enlighten our youth, I think you got it from him, and he definitely passed down those gems to you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you know, what's to come to you and the foundation as well.
Yes.
When you were talking about, how we don't recognize our neighbors today. I think when I moved to the United States, that was one thing that was really shocking to me.
Mm.
Um, because back in Cameroon, where I'm from, everyone is auntie, everyone is uncle, everyone's my sister. You're going to work. I watch all the kids in the neighborhood. I know everybody's cousins from
Mhm.
3 generations. So when I moved here, it was isolating in a way.
Yeah,
So,
some Selma is like that. It's like that. It's still like that in Selma, Alabama. Selma is very poor, but they still have a community, neighbor based relationship.
yeah, I love
They
that.
do. They really do. But we're losing that. We are. We are losing it. We like that doesn't matter anymore. Back in the day, you can go to your neighbor and ask for 2 eggs and some sugar. Man, you go to your neighbor now, they'll look at you like the stupid. You know.
Yep, absolutely. How do you think we can, bridge that gap there? What do you think we're missing, or what do you think we need to remove to bridge that gap?
Um, I think that something as simple as every adult start going knocking on your neighbor's door and saying, "Hi, my name is so and so, so and so. Here's my number." We could do it on Facebook. Think about it. We can have 5,000, 6,000 followers on Facebook or friends, and won't speak to them in public or won't speak to our neighbor when we leave out our garage. Think about that psychologically. Look how they have tricked us into becoming just society. You know.
Absolutely. I know. So I'm going to switch to a different gear right now. We're going to talk about mental health in the Black community. Um,
All right.
what do you, I noticed at least the past 2 years or so, more people have been talking about Black health, Black mental health. And I do see a lot more Black men and women promoting Black mental health and promoting their own health. How do you think we can continue to encourage young Black people to, get the mental health support that they need? Because when I work in this field, I do realize that a lot of the Black folks that I meet, the young teenagers that I meet, they are very skeptical of getting support from the system. So how do you think we can bridge that gap?
Well, this is a good conversation I have. My youngest brother's schizophrenic, so I understand. I think it's more so a drug-induced schizophrenia. But conversation, man. I think we have to teach it in the churches because blacks. First of all, I think every Black person should be talking to a psychologist every week. Me personally, because of the impact of slavery and mass incarceration, the things that has happened to Blacks in America. And the reason Blacks really trust the medicine of the United States is because you look at the syphilis, the Tuskegee Airmen, they brought things in our communities and given it to us and said it's good for us, and it has given us sicknesses and diseases. So they pretty much don't trust when, because my wife is an RN nurse. So when she do health fairs, and I make, because we go to where we grew up to do health fairs, and a lot of people don't like to get their blood pressure checked. They don't like to get their sugar checked. They don't like, just period. When you talk about medical institution, they don't trust. They don't trust it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now when you're talking about mental health, they already from the basic of from the just from the top, they don't trust the medical institution. Now we're talking about putting my mental state in their hands. So I think we have to be educated on it. And I think it has to start where, if you look at Reconstruction and when Black people were free from slavery, the church was very instrumental in helping starting the economic movement for the Black community. They always been the cornerstone of the Black community. They're not now, but they have always played that role. So I think the church needs to start playing that role to educate people on mental health, because Black Americans go to church.
That's
So
true.
if we start there to educate them at the masses, listen, that's the same mentality my granddad and them had. They had mass meetings to teach the illiterate. That's how, because a lot of Black people couldn't read. So they used the mega churches to bring the illiterate in to teach them. So if we use that same approach with mental health, we can get the message out there a lot faster, and the understanding and build that trust if we hold our churches accountable. That's
Yeah.
just the thing.
Man, I have never ever thought about it like that. I have never imagined that the church can be a place where we talk about our mental health.
Come
And
on.
it, because it's not being promoted. It's not, people aren't having this type of conversation in the church. When you talk about mental health, we associate it with crazy, and we associate it with all these other things that aren't really, true. So I think that's such a great point, man. That's beautiful, because like you said, a lot of Black people, there's more than 50 people in the church. That's 50 people
Right.
that you are passing the message on to.
Thank you. And they're taking it home, and then what's happening as you teach them, they're saying, okay, my nephew Craig, he kind of acts like that.
Mm-hmm.
This might be something I can talk to him about.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Then they gonna bring them to church, say, look, come to church, and they're talking about something that I think that can help you. And see, the church has to understand it's 501c3, so the church can get a lot of grants to have counselors, to have medicine, to have different things come in, workshops come in for free that they can give tax write-off to people for their time. You get what I'm saying? It can work if we just get a plan together and execute it. It can work.
I think so too. I think so. I think a church is a great place, and you have youths that go to church. You know,
Right.
you're knocking two things out of the way at the same time. That's a beautiful mindset, man. I hope it takes place. But but to look on the other side, why do you think a lot of Black people aren't going to church anymore? Because I do think that's a case. That's the case these days.
Because the church is not what it used to be. The church I grew up in is not the church today. And you're talking about a minister. I was a minister of music. I grew up in a church. My foundation is the church.
Mm-hmm.
But the church, it has to get back to fight. The church, and I tell people all day, in the Black community, your pastor cannot be an activist and says he's a pastor in the Black community. And I said this once before. I said what the church was to the white community is different what the church is to the Black community. What the church did for the Black community, the whites had the government to do. See, the church was always there to talk about injustice, to talk about what laws need to be passed, to give businesses loans to start in the Black community. The white community had the government because we were enslaved in America. So when we came out of slavery, the church, especially the African Methodist church that came from Africa, a lot of people don't realize over here during slavery and saw us out through slavery. And so I think the church has to really stand up and say, you know what, we have to get in the fight. Mm-hmm. And that would bridge the relationship back with the people, because the people of my grandfather's generation, they saw the church in the fight.
Absolutely.
So now it's different,
Yeah, I do think so, because when I was younger, I would attend church, but now when I do go back to church, it's a little bit different. It's more, I don't want to use the word intense, but it's less intense as the years.
It's more about personal and not community. Remember, when you go to church now, the message, listen to the message. The message is about your house, your car, your elevation, and not we as a community. See, the church back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and 70s was about how we're going to move forward as a community. It wasn't single. It was on code. It's about how we're going to move together. Now it's about you, individual. I need my blessing. The message is different as a whole. Yeah. The message has to change as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. That's funny because this might be a little bit way off the left, but I was watching this video and the sister was talking about the pastor, and she was generalizing as well. She did make that mention. Claire, she mentioned that, and she said that the church is starting to be like, if you look at it, it's like it's run as like, this is so bad, but the pimp type of style. It's like, mm-hmm. Look at what I could do for you. Mm-hmm. And it's the same as politics. Politicians go, it's like, look at what I can do for you.
That's right.
So when you were talking, that's what came to mind for me. It's like, she was, relating those messages together. I'm like, wow, she was onto something. When I was watching that video, I just thought she was just talking about how she was feeling. But now you're telling me all these things. I'm like, it makes a lot of sense. It's about what I can do for you and what you can do for me. Like, it's not about what we can do for each other.
Because, the church, it's just like I talk about, even on our podcast, I talk about the celebrity activists and I talk about celebrity pastors. Everyone wants to be known, but not make sustainable growth and sustainable change. But I want to be known.
Yeah.
I want everybody to know me. But what am I doing in my life to leave this world and make a sustainable change? Sustainable change. That means that change that will last. Yeah. That everybody want to be known and followed. That has to change. The I take self out the center. Self-centered. They got to take it out our community, our churches, and out of our politicians. My grandfather, I'm gonna tell you something. My granddad, when he was the first Black man to run for Selma, for mayor in Selma. He was one of the first Black men to be on the city council. And so when people used to come and try to create jobs and bring jobs to Selma, the first question my granddad used to say, how many blacks are you going to hire? That's the first question. Because, and they used to say, I get tired of that man talking about how many blacks. And I know my people are behind the ball. So now I'm in a place to bring sustainable change in their life. I'm going to make sure I do that. I'm not going to say how many people in Selma you're going to hire. No. How many blacks that are in Selma that you're going to hire? We don't have that mindset anymore to be about our people and sustainable change.
Absolutely, I agree. What do you think of a black man? I'm gonna keep it to black men. What do you think black men should do to feel comfortable talking about their mental health, or how do you think black men should approach this subject when it comes to mental health?
That's a hard question. That's a because it's black men do not have an outlet. Um, Black men have to be really careful what they say in public. I think black men we as black men have to tell other black men, look, man, you can talk to me.
Mm.
Your secrets are safe with me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to judge you. You know, I'm not going to ridicule you. I'm not going to look at you funny. Other black men have to be willing to tell other black men, look, man, it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable with me. You know what I'm saying? And have that conversation about what's going on in your mind, because now I know how to help you. You know, sometimes people, especially we as men, sometimes we just need someone to talk to. You know, we always have to be strong and you know, can't show any emotion. I disagree with that. I've never grown up in a place, my grandparents and my parents never said I couldn't show any emotion. It's a time and a place for it. You know what I'm saying? Show your emotions with me. You can talk to me about what's going on. It was never a conversation I couldn't go to my grandparents or my parents about. You know, it was always an open door. So I think with black men, we have to show that side and say, look, man, you can talk to me. You know, we can have a conversation and work this out, you know, and continue. Go to therapy. I've been in therapy. You know, I have a spiritual father that, you know, I went through a depression. And guess what? I went and seeked out help. It's okay.
Yeah, do you I have two questions for you as you were talking. One is, did your parents create that space for you to feel comfortable wanting to talk to them? Because I know sometimes our parents aren't even aware of their own emotions. They don't even know what's going on with them. So for them to be able to have an open door policy for you to just talk about how you're feeling with them, I think that's beautiful. And then the other one is, do you think we're not creating space for black men to be able to express themselves as a
um,
society?
the first question, yes, my parents did. They they had an open door policy. They didn't mind us saying anything. Now you're gonna be respectful how you gonna say something, because how you say it might get you knocked in the mouth. Because I grew up in a home that was discipline was on the top. My parents did not spread a rod, so you're gonna be disciplined. But yes, if something was in our mind, they never said, "Man, don't come talk to me about that." If we was thinking things that were not right, they never said, "Are you crazy?" or this and that. They talked to us. You know what I'm saying? They did. My grandfather, he talked to us. You know what I'm saying? My granddaddy taught us instilled so much wisdom in us, man. Now that I look back as a grown man, to be able to use those words and remember those quotes and those gems, man, it's priceless. I can't buy it now.
Absolutely.
And do I feel like we create a space for black men to be vulnerable and talk about what's on their mind? No, we don't. We don't. And that's just the honest God truth. Um, we just don't. I don't think it's out there.
Yeah. I think so too. I don't think we do as a society. I don't think we create the space for our black men to, be vulnerable and just want to express how they're feeling. Also, I think there's this macho side of the society that we've always looked at Black men as providers. We've always given them those responsibilities to hold it down. We expect them to hold it down. I, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I, and I think that gets lost when it comes to the emotional part of them growing and developing as an individual person.
Well, one of the things I tell my son, because I'm not hard on my son, but I'm stern with him. And if you hurt him, say, okay, get up. But one thing I ask my kids is, when they do something, I ask them, well, how did that make you feel? Okay, don't worry about how daddy feels. How did it make you feel? Are you disappointed in yourself? Yes, if they say yes or no. Well, they say yes. Well, what can we do to change that? You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we, as parents, always, as a child, the word says, train the child the way they should go and they'll never depart from it. But I feel like we can start helping their mental health at a young age, just about allowing them to reevaluate and take inventory of themselves in that moment. It'll teach them to check their mind. So my question is, how did that make you feel? And I listen to how he feels. you
I,
know,
I, I agree 100%. I love that approach because you're not only putting the ball in the court, but you're allowing them to express how they feel.
that's right.
And I think that's something that's really important there, because a lot of times as young children, we kind of look up to our parents to give us guides. But for our parents to tell us, like, I want you to guide me through how you're feeling right now, that gives
Right.
power.
Mm-hmm.
It gives the child encouragement,
That's
it gives the child responsibility that they will carry on for the rest of their time.
that's right. And it teaches them how to communicate.
Absolutely.
It teaches them how to communicate, how to talk things through, to not be so emotional. Because sometimes I feel like kids react because they don't know how to express themselves. They don't know what to say and how to say it. So if I tell my son, tell me how you feel, well, that's teaching him how to communicate in this moment, in this space right now. It's teaching him that. So as he grows, he's gonna know, okay, if I'm mad, if I'm angry, I don't have to go hit something or try to physically attack it because I don't know how to express myself. I can tell a person, look, man, this hurt my feelings, and that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? In that moment.
Man, I love it. I love it. I think your grandpa definitely changed some stuff all up in you. Your DNA is different. Just going off this, what is your mission here what do you think your mission here is on Earth? What is your purpose? Um, you know,
My purpose, okay, yeah, that's a good my purpose is what I'm doing. I'm working for my last name. One thing I recognize is my grandfather did some great things in this world that my job is to make sure they put some respect on Reese, on my last name. That's very important.
yeah,
That's my purpose. And as a man, to be able to grab and understand your purpose, um, that's a great thing. And what God has allowed, with the Most High has allowed for me to be able to tap into different areas because I'm a minister. I can tap into church. I'm an activist. I can tap into that area. I'm also a musician, a producer. I can tap into that area to help my purpose, my passion, my purpose, and my calling. I'm glad you asked that question because when I talk to young people, that's how I break down my grandfather's legacy. I talk about his passion, his purpose, and his call.
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So,
And
but we should know our.
I noticed you put those in three different categories. Do you find them as three different things, or do you think they're connected?
I think they're three different ones, but they also connect, intertwine together.
Mm,
Because his passion, he was a teacher. At the end of the day, my grandfather loved to teach. Uh, but and you saw how, and his purpose was to get Dr. King and Selma and lead as an activist, as a politician. And his calling was to be a minister of the Most High God, for the Most High God. But he was able to use all that to complete his mission in life. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. Yes, I'm still in that from you, by the way.
Okay, you can have it. I give it to you.
I love it. How do you take care of your own mental health?
Man, I have a great relationship with the men in my life. I have a great relationship with my brother. I have a great relationship with my father. I have a great relationship with my father-in-law. Um, I got my father and my father-in-law some great men. You know, I look up to them, and they're still living. You know what I'm saying? And we talking about men who's married, who's led a family, and that they've done and still doing what I'm trying to do. So it's always good to find a person where you want to be in 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Find that person, grab the wisdom from them, then you'll get there. And once you get there, find another person who's 20 years ahead of you and grab wisdom from there, then you'll get there. So I got my father-in-law, Mr. Jolly, and I got my daddy, Mr. Reese, who I look up to, and I take wisdom from them daily. You know what I'm saying? And that's very important for men to do that. Look, man, you don't know it all. Men have to, and sometimes the pride of men can be the fall of men, because sometimes our ego can settle in and think that we know it all, and you don't. You know nothing. You know what I'm saying? And once you get that, you can see the fulfillments in your life, and you can grow and always grow and grow and grow. That's all life is about, is growing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So, having a great, strong foundation and a great base for you and a great support system with your family, that's really healthy for your mindset and how you keep your sanity. Um, and when it comes to spirituality, I know you're a Reverend. How I don't want to say your relationship with the Lord, but your relationship with the higher force. How does that help you with your mental health? Because I know for myself, that is a big part for me, staying healthy and mentally.
Mm-hmm. Just having faith, man. And I always go back to the word. The word says that faith without works is dead. To see this, I always go to what I'm doing with my grandfather's legacy. It started with just speaking it. Then we start putting the work in, and then things start coming to pass. That's the same thing with life. I look at life. If I hold myself accountable and I ask the Most High for the things that I want and I desire, if I put the work in mentally, spiritually, physically, it's gonna come to pass. You know what I'm saying? And as you go through the process and see things happening, it's like, man, I don't doubt it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's comforting. That's comforting.
It is. It is. I think that's one of the one of the best things that to me one can do for themselves is somewhat put your burden onto somebody else. I don't have to carry it anymore. Somebody else is carrying it for me.
That's right.
And I think that's the comfort part to me. That's what it is. And a lot of people somewhat, I feel like, misunderstand the part of religion and Christianity in that way when it comes to just taking your burden up and giving it to someone and feeling comfort in their arms spiritually or with just you having your faith.
That's right. That's very important.
Yeah. So what advice? Sorry, were you gonna say something?
Oh, no. Mm-mm.
I was. What advice? Okay. What advice would you give a young brother? These days with when it comes to their mental health, just cultivating positive thinking. Um,
Um, After every night, there comes a day. These one of the quotes my granddad used to always say to me, and I live by this every day. He used to say this: after every night, there comes a day. I never seen it fail yet. And I used to sound a little longer on that. I tell people, look, it's the night times that builds character. When you look at your life and on the up and up, and you ask a person, how did you become that person? They don't never go to the good times. They always go to the bad times in life where they had to keep pushing. It didn't matter how dark it got, even if they didn't see the light, they had to keep pushing. And as they kept pushing, they began to see light and they began to see daybreak. And my granddad used to always say, don't give up during the night because you won't even see daybreak. You won't even see it break. You won't see the blessings of your work of night. You won't see the hope of it when you was in your hardships, the down times, when you didn't see your way through, when you just kept pushing, you just believed. Man, when you get to the day, it's so much more, you're so much more grateful that you stood there and you endured it and you grow. You are a better person. The night is necessary. The hard times is necessary to grow. It is. Don't run from it. Welcome it. I always say this. Look, at the end of the day, welcome your Judas in life because Judas put Yahweh Shai, who you want to say Jesus, Yeshua, put him on the cross. If it weren't for Judas, he wouldn't have been on the cross. So I'll tell you this, when you see Judas in your life, welcome it because you know you're going to be elevated. Simple as that.
Man, I think this conversation has been very enlightening to me. I've loved every word you have said. And thank you so much for just blessing us with knowledge. Um, and shout out to your grandfather again, because I could see him just running through your bloodstreams and blood veins and all of it.
I appreciate that. Appreciate
And
it.
where can we, if we were going to, look, can you tell us where we can find you on social media? Also about the foundation, can you tell us where we can locate that if we were going to look for you? Or
You
look
can follow on Instagram on Alan M. Reese. That's ALANM Reese. You can find the foundation at fdreesefoundation.org. We actually do historical tours, man, with me and my brother. We go to Selma, man. We take you through the historical home. We take you by the bridge, by Brown Chapel. We talk about my grandfather. So I welcome anyone who want to do a tour. Go to the foundation website, and it's a link that you can book a tour with us. Pick up my grandfather's book. One of the first things that I made him do when we start on this movement is finish his book. It's called Selma Self-Sacrifice. Pick up that book, man. You can go to fdreese.com and get more information about us. You can follow my brother, Marvin Reese Jr., on Instagram. So yeah, that's I think that's about it. Or you can go to History Apparel. We have an apparel company if you want to get some apparel. But that's just some of the things we're doing.
Absolutely. And I think you mentioned what you guys are hosting a podcast yourself, you and your brother, you said?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
bringing it back month. It's
When,
called
sorry, what is it called?
the Lineage.
The Lineage. Where is that from? And why?
We just look we the lineage of FD Reese. We his lineage. So yeah, you can go to Facebook. We have a page on our Facebook page, the lineage. You can see some past episodes. We was on 95.6 hits 95.6, but we're moving to another station. So it's an internet radio / podcast. Yeah, we're bringing that next month. So just look out for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. One final or any final words to bless us with.
Man, I tell people just keep standing for what is right. You know, don't 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 uh don't stand down because you feel like people gonna look at you different, man. Always have character, man. Character is very important. Live by that, your word and your character, and that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate you for joining me. This has been a
When you want me to come again, just hit me up.
Definitely will. I definitely will hit you up and maybe even have you I do this thing called the takeover of my podcast, and I invite the guest and you bring up a topic that you want to talk about, and you go for you record it and you send it to me and I upload it to the website. So maybe we can do something like
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh
That would be
definitely.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That, mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that would be good. I love your words. I love everything you said, and the quote you mentioned. Can you repeat that by your grandfather? After every night, there's a day, or
After every night comes a day. He
after
never
every what?
after every night there comes a day. And he say, I've never seen it fail yet.
And I'm definitely gonna steal that as well.
Yes, sir. Take it. You.
I appreciate it. So, guys, thank you guys so much for listening to Self Reflection Podcast. This is Alan Reese, and this is your girl Lyra. Until next time, you're listening to Self Reflection Podcast.